Okay, welcome everyone to the Paperboy Ventures pod. We've got a really fun one today as we welcome on one of the most influential leaders in CPG today, Danny Stepper. Danny, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Kind intro. Appreciate it.
That's just the start. We're going to get into your background and your long history in the industry here, but I'll say many people know you who are going to be listening to this, but for those who don't, Danny's a longtime entrepreneur, deep beverage experience. He's currently a co-founder, CEO of, I believe, 4 different entities. You might maybe more.
More, but
More,
that's all right.
okay.
Yeah.
Notably, LA Libations, which is a prolific beverage incubator based in
That's the
California.
main one. That's the main one.
The main one, okay. And then,
That's the engine. That's the engine. That's
yeah,
my life's work. Yeah.
right. All right, we'll get into that. And then more recently, Taste Tomorrow Ventures, which is a newly launched VC fund that's investing in early stage CPG. He's also the only person I know in the industry that has a signature pose in photos. So, love if you could just hit us. Yep, perfect. I mean, let's just start there. What's the deal? Where did that come from?
So, I mean, you don't know me that well, but this probably won't surprise you. Like, I just am not the kind of person that just lets something happen to me, like no matter what it is. And so, when someone's taking a picture of me, I just feel like it's very like reactive, and I don't have any control. So I like to just kind of throw some energy back, man. That's it. And now it's totally funny. I mean, my wife hates it because you cannot find a picture of me without doing that. And but it's really funny because it's become a thing. Like, first of all, whenever I do this, whoever's next to me looks at me, and then they do it too. And then next thing you know, people are saying, "Hey, can we get a picture? Can we do this one?" And it's become a thing. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I see it all over
Yeah.
LinkedIn, retailer meetings, conferences. It's pretty amazing. So it's a
Vito at Erewhon hates it. He's like, dude, what? Stop doing that. Like, why you always, like, put your fist down. I'm like, no, man, it's trademark now.
yeah,
So
I mean, half the battle is being polarizing in building a brand. So I think you got that going for you. But super cool. Let's dive in. Really, the purpose of today's conversation, it's twofold. So you've got really interesting background and experience in the industry. So I'd love if you could walk through your journey and kind of how you got to this point, because many people have ambitions to get into venture, incubation, that side of things. So it'd be cool to hear about your path, and then we'll finish the back half of the conversation really about Taste Tomorrow Ventures. I'll say early stage CPG is what we talk about all day here at Paperboy, and it's a space that has declined, I'll say, in the past few years, and there's a lack of resources. So it's great to see new funds, new resources popping up to facilitate the next group of brands that are going to break out in this country. So
sure. So I'll give you the broad strokes on how we got here. If you want to dig deeper into anything, just ask me because I could go forever. But so I'm an LA kid, born and raised. I live in Manhattan Beach, but I didn't grow up in Manhattan Beach. I grew up deep in the San Fernando Valley, like Karate Kid land. And when I graduated from college, I had no money. I had a mountain of college debt. I was scared to death. So I quickly concocted this plan to find the biggest company I could find and work my way up. And back then, it was a long time ago. I'm old, but I saw a job in the paper for a job at the Coke bottler here in LA. And so I went in and interviewed for it as the lowest level job you could have in beverage. I was a merchandiser. With a college degree, I wore a uniform and a back belt, and I'd meet the truck at the back of the store at 4 a.m, and the big truck would drop off the product, and I would fill the shelves and spin the cans and beg the store manager for a display. Kind of some of the same stuff I'm still doing today. But that was really my entree into beverage, and I had a really good run at Coke. I worked insanely hard, harder than anyone. And they kept rewarding me for that. And that made me work harder. And, I was single, and I literally, all I did was work. And I got promoted 14 times in 9 years. My last year at Coke, I found myself with a Coca-Cola company. I migrated from the bottler to the Coca-Cola company. They recruited me over, and I was managing Coke's global business with Costco. So in reality, that's still kind of a middle manager position in the scope of Coca-Cola. But considering in 9 years, I was a merchandiser. It was a pretty tremendous ride. they made the mistake of putting me through graduate school at Pepperdine, and I got to work a little bit less. And so that was my first time to like take a breath and breathe. And I was the first bottle can fully dedicated person they put on the Costco business. And when I took over the Costco business, here we are, the number one trademark in the world, Coca-Cola. And we're selling 24 cans in a brown box with the dolphin killing rings. And I'm looking at P&G and you know, Kellogg, and they all have these beautiful club centric self-selling packages. And I'm like, we're the number one trademark in the world. We can definitely do better than this. So I was calling Atlanta, you know, brand managers. Nobody would listen to me except Rohan. He was the only one with Powerade. But so I just started doing it myself. So a lot of the stuff you see in Costco today, you know, the 36 pack that's branded shrink and all that, that basically cost my career at Coke doing that stuff. I was doing that stuff in my garage. I made the mistake of showing it to Costco before I showed it to Coke, and Costco loved it. And anyway, the epiphany I had was that I'm an entrepreneur. Like,
Yeah.
I was really rough on the furniture at the end of my time at Coke. People still laugh about it that we're there. There was no going away party for me, I like to say, when I left Coke. It was time for me to go. And that's when my life took a crazy, crazy turn. It's a long, long story, but you know, while I was a Coke employee, Adidas, the shoe company, gave me and another guy 45 million bucks to go make some soccer movies. It's right there, goal. And so I moved to Europe, grew my hair out like an idiot, and became a movie producer, which was never my dream. Most of us that grew up in LA were pretty normal. Played Little League baseball, go to church, you know, but Hollywood's always this thing over there. But you kind of get to a certain place of success in LA, and you can't avoid the movie business if you get to that place of success. And it came and found me. And so I did that for 4 years and left beverage. Although I will say, I was telling you before we hopped on this, there's only been 3 movies on Coke packaging. The first Harry Potter, Avatar, and my tiny little movie Goal, which I'm really proud of. So I made Goal. I made Goal 2. I made Goal 3. Don't go watch Goal 3. It's like 2 hours of your life you'll never get back. I should take my name off it. It's terrible. I produced the official FIFA World Cup documentary in Germany in 2006. And then I just took a breath. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, first of all, I don't like the people in the movie business. They live up to every cliche that you've heard of. And I didn't miss Coke, but I missed the people at Coke. So I wanted to come home and get back into beverage. So I did. We started LA Libations 15 years ago. And it's named after my daughter and my business partner, Dino's daughter, Lauren and Annika. That's the L and the A in LA Libations. Obviously, there's a little double meaning there. And we started as a broker. And we kind of put the broker. Like, we could not make any money. But what was happening was we saw it was right as Whole Foods was really blowing up. And we were used to calling on big Coca-Cola customers, you know, that Whole Foods doesn't sell Coke, right? So we would, you know, I managed the Target business at Coke. I managed the Kmart business one time at Coke. I managed the Costco business. So we saw that was happening. And I'm like, you know, this thing of health and wellness, it's not going away. You know, let's take that stuff that they're selling in Whole Foods and let's sell it to traditional retailers like Kroger and Albertsons. And I had this life-changing moment where I had a meeting in Cincinnati with a woman named Mary Ellen Adcock at Kroger. She's now the chief merchant of Kroger. But at the time, she was the first person they put in charge of natural at Kroger. And they said, go build a store within a store and compete with Whole Foods. So I was meeting with her and you know, I was being a salesman. And I basically said, look, half the growth in beverage is coming from brands and categories that didn't exist 5 years ago. You know, the consumer is promiscuous. They want new things. And she's like, great, I'll go buy all the new things. And I said, well, hang on. Sorry, my phone. I should have turned that off. So, you know, I said, well, hang on. You know, 98% of these things are going to fail. And she's like, well, Danny, I have better odds going to Vegas. Like, why would I do that? You know, like, and I said, well, why don't you make me your emerging beverage category captain? There's certain moments that kind of change your life. That was one of mine. So, you know, she said yes. She said, will you go on Fox News with me tomorrow? And so I said yes. So we went on the Cincinnati affiliate of Fox News, and she proceeded to tell the world that, you know, we're Kroger, the number one grocery store chain in America, and we're going to out Whole Foods, and we're going to partner with LA Libations to do it. And the video, Kyle, it's in our 15-year anniversary video. You can see my eyes. I'm like, because I couldn't believe what she was saying. Like, we were 3 people in the company. We could barely make payroll. Wow. And all of a sudden, everyone came after us. Pepsi, Nestle, Coke. We ended up selling 25% of the company to Coke. at a $48 million valuation, which is hilarious. They didn't really know what to do with us. We signed a 5-year services agreement, which covered like a bunch of overhead that we wanted to use to build the company. And we just went and started building the company.
Yeah.
And, we became like kind of the emerging beverage guys and girls. And, it was awesome. We got involved with Zico at that point. Zico was the first brand that ever gave us equity for services. So that was our first exit. We sold that to the Coca-Cola company. Our second one was Core Water with Lance. Dino was the first operating manager of Core Water. I was the initial board member, and we sold that to Keurig Dr Pepper for $526 million. And then the big one that really changed my life, changed my family's life was BodyArmor. Which we sold to Coke for a final valuation of $8 billion. And so that actually came later after our relationship with Coke kind of dissolved. And what happened was, as it happens in big companies, the regimes change, and this new regime came in and said, like, what are we doing with these little guys? Like, why are we spending this money with them? Why, like, this is a distraction. Let's not do this anymore. So they cut off our services agreement. I very creatively, I haven't told the story. I'm not going to tell it now either, but I was able to get the shares back for nothing. And we then had a big company with lots of overhead, and Coke's services agreement was paying for a lot of that overhead. And so, I just funded it myself. All the money I made in movies, the Core Water money, like I just dumped it all into the company. We never missed payroll. And it was a really dark time, to be honest with you. There was not a lot of incoming calls. When Coke ditches you, everyone's like, thinks you're over. And so, but I believed in what we were doing so much, and we just kept going. I went and met with Gamgord at KDP, and I said, you want to do the Coke deal? And he's like, no, but let's do a brand together. And we started Don't Quit. I went to Pedro at Anheuser-Busch. I said the same thing. Like, let's you want to take Coke's shares and buy Coke shares? And they said no, but let's do a brand together. So we started a brand together, and then we were about to hit the wall. I was staring at personal and professional bankruptcy. It was like right here, man, like right in front of me. And that's when I was at the Beverage Forum, ironically, which we now own. And it was in Chicago, and Pete Marino saw me on Instagram. He's one of my 10 followers on Instagram. And he said, I see you're in Chicago. Why don't you come over to the Miller Brewery? And so I went, and he grabbed Gavin, and we ended up doing a deal, a really quick deal where they bought Coke shares and took a minority investment in LA Libations. And that was in 2019. And to be honest, we just have not looked back, man. Like it's been a really great run since then. And, look, I was talking to my wife, and she's like, I understand why you work so hard when we have no money, but like you've never worked harder than you worked right now. And I said, really? I was surprised. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm working. I love what I do. I love this company. So LA Libations is a beverage creator. We create our own brands. It's an incubator. We have SoCal incubation programs called SIP, which is kind of what most guys and gals that are starting a brand in their garage want to be part of. It's where we prove concepts. We're an accelerator. All the pick and shovel businesses that a founder needs over the years, we've brought in house. So we have our own marketing agency called LA Vibrations. We have our own distributor here in LA called called High Touch Libations. We started our own merchandising company, which is a full circle moment for me, because that's what we
where you started at
that's where we
Coke,
started.
your very first role.
Yeah. So we started Relentless, and it kept growing and growing. And then, Poppy asked us to do Walmart nationwide. And I was like, man, this isn't what we set out to do, to have thousands of hourly employees. So we joint ventured that with Advantage, public company, Dave Peacock. He's the best. And so we joint ventured that, and it's become a real thing. It's like, we can merchandise 10 stores, or we can merchandise 10,000 stores. So, yeah. So we have all these pick and shovel businesses. The big missing piece was capital. And so, all those brands that we've got equity in so many brands, but it's all sweat equity. We've never written a check. BodyArmor, we didn't write a check. Core Water, we didn't write a check. If we had written a check, like if we'd have written a $2 million check into BodyArmor, this is not hyperbole, this is math, we would have made $250 million. So your head quickly goes to like,
what if we had that money? We should probably go get it so we can start capturing that value.
Right. And I hate asking people for money. Like I absolutely hate it. So it took me a while to get my head around like starting a fund because I just didn't want to go around and ask people for money. I've asked strategics for money, but I've never really asked humans for money, and I don't really like it, and I don't want to. So, I socialized it with a few strategics, and the thesis was that I think we're the most strategic investor in beverage. Like
Yeah.
these brands giving us equity.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you have it on the sweat side, so why not double down? And
right.
I want to get to taste tomorrow, but to kind of put the bookmark on your experiences that got you here. So that first year at Coke, that was where you were basically learning the distribution, the merchandising, and the retail management side of the business. Is that fair to say? Was it mostly like that commercial sales and distribution key account type experience?
So I learned, I think, in my first job at Coke was I probably learned the more than I've ever learned my whole career. And because you learn what happens at the point of purchase, right? And that's the moment of truth for
Yeah.
every brand. For every brand, it happens at the point of purchase with a consumer, and it's all about availability, making sure that it's priced right, you have your tags up, it's rotated, like all the really unglamorous side of the business that nobody knows about, but it's so critical to a brand being successful.
It's
I
the
learned
most
it.
important marketing that you do is in store. And I was the same way at Red Bull. My very first job at Red Bull was riding the distribution trucks and leaving at 4:30. And actually, it was in Southern California as well.
Yeah.
But seeing that firsthand, and the number one driver of awareness is still in store, no matter how many hundreds of millions of dollars that you're going to spend on marketing. It's all in
All
store.
about the point of purchase. That's why I still say, people ask me like, what's the most effective use of a dollar for marketing? And I say sampling, not at the beach, sampling at the point of purchase, right?
As close to the point of sale
Where
as possible.
people can taste it and put it into their cart at the same time. If your product tastes good, if your product doesn't taste good, it's probably the worst thing you can do. But if you have great products, which hopefully you do, sampling at the point of purchase is everything.
Yeah. Okay. So that was like basically what brought you to start LA Libations, which started as that brokerage and now has basically morphed into like a full on ecosystem of taking care of every activity that a startup beverage brand would need to execute in the market.
Yeah, because we do it for our own brands. Like we create our own brands. And so we need all those things. At one point, like we had like 7 brands and we were using 7 different marketing agencies. I'm like, this is crazy. There's money flying
bring
out
it
the
in.
door.
Right.
Let's build this muscle and bring it in. And we did that with kind of every element of what you need if you're a
So that's
founder.
the incubation part, right? Starting those brands in house.
Yeah.
And then you accelerate as well. So I guess what do you call the whole thing at this point?
So we call, I mean, we don't really, and it's like, we're kind of mysterious, but it's not intended to be mysterious. Everyone's like, what do you guys actually do? And I say we're a beverage, creator and accelerator is what I say. But there's so many layers to that and what that means that it doesn't really capture it all. And now we bought Beverage Forum and that's become a real thing. And so there's like so many different parts of what we do. But at the end of the day, what I say we do, the most important thing that we do is we prove concepts with brands.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
And
is what every brand really
beverage.
needs.
It's more than
Which is what
beverage
every
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't raise capital unless you have proof of concept and you build a velocity story. So that is the core of what we do. And then when we have a brand that starts blowing up, like Don't Quit is right now, then you bring in a team, and it kind of graduates out of the LA Libations ecosystem. But we still very, very involved with it all. Like we still, and very much in the DNA of our company is our relationships with retailers. I mean, I'll put our relationships with retailers up with anyone on the planet. And it's not an easy thing because it's a moving target. These people leave, move, die, change jobs. And I'll tell you a little story. It's really interesting. So Jack Sinclair, who, he was the chief merchant at Walmart. He was the second one to name us emerging beverage category captain at Walmart. And that was in 2011. Right. So we've been doing this a long time and that was incredible. And one day Jack called me and he goes, Danny, I'm leaving Walmart. And I go, oh, okay, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to go run 99-cent stores. And I was like, oh, gosh, okay. And he goes, it's in LA. I don't know anyone in LA except you. And I'm like, all right. So we went to dinner like every other month for like 3 years. And one night we were at dinner and he goes, Danny, it's so funny. When I was a chief merchant at Walmart, my phone was ringing off the hook. And he goes, you're the only idiot that still wants to hang out with me. And I'm like, Jack, we're friends, you know? And like 2 weeks after that, he called me and he goes, I'm leaving 99-cent stores. And I go, where are you going? Like Big Lots or grocery outlet? And he goes, no, I'm now the CEO of Sprouts and you're my first meeting. And that's kind of how our relationships have evolved. Mary Ellen, she's now the chief merchant of Kroger. So a lot of these things have gone back a long, long way. Jose Still Delgado, the chief merchant of 7-Eleven, same thing. Very similar story. So that's very much important to us is retail.
Yeah, and that was one of my bigger questions coming into this conversation is how do you and your team seemingly know every major retailer and you have a solid relationship. So it sounds like it's just over time of treating people the right way and getting in the right rooms. And now you have these relationships that you can build on.
Yeah, it's like a long history of doing what we say we're going to do, like showing up, and delivering. Like we bring a lot of innovation to these retailers. And, if we bring them a bunch of bad stuff, they're not going to, no matter how good the relationships are, they're in business. So we have great stuff. But yeah, like I think a lot of like we are not a broker. I hate anything with the word broken it, by the way. But like we're not a broker, but a lot of these brokers that, they say we have relationships with retailers, they really don't. Like they have contacts. Like ours are relationships that are like span many, many years and, have, sometimes been strained, sometimes had great moments, these people have watched us, almost lose everything and they're rooting for us, and they're hoping that we bring them great stuff. And so it's a huge responsibility because we have a big impact over the assortment that these retailers take. And it's a huge responsibility, right? So we often are recommending things that we have no economic interest in. That's different. Nobody does that, right? So when you go take something to a retailer and say, you really ought to be carrying this, it's on fire, we're seeing what's happening over here. And they're like, are you representing that? And we say, no, but we'll put you in touch with them. And that's truly, truly unique to what anyone has ever done. And we've been doing that for a long, long time. And that gives us a massive amount of credibility with the retailer.
Trust. Yeah.
But,
right.
But also when we want to put our own stuff in, like we don't do it if we don't think it's going to work. And believe me, we put stuff in that doesn't work, but when we do put it in, we really believe it's going to work. We don't ask the retailer to do something that we don't think is going to benefit them. And we've been doing that for such a long time that it just has given us this ethos and this credibility when we go in with them.
Right. And that's the number one most important skill set that all of these emerging brands are looking for. It's the connection to retail because, e-commerce is much bigger in food than it is in beverage, but 90+% of volume is it's going to run through retail.
Yeah,
I think
shipping heavy liquids is never going to be a big idea.
It's the worst business model on the planet, and it can't scale. So unless you have a high dollar per ounce item.
Yeah. So if you're a founder of a brand, the most important thing in your life is to get on the shelf, right? Until you get on the shelf, then it all switches and changes.
Off the shelf.
How do I get it off the shelf into people's carts? But A before B, you got to get it on the shelf, right?
Yeah.
And we're pretty good at that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's talk about Taste Tomorrow and kind of how that piece came into play because you mentioned you hate raising money. I agree. Raising money is one of the most difficult things to do as an entrepreneur for a brand or a fund. How did it happen? What's the goal?
So it's been in the back of my mind for a long, long time, and it kind of happened organically. I was talking to one of our LPs, one of our biggest LPs. It's a multi-billion-dollar public company, which most of our LPs are. And I just said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And what do you think? Like, can I get some coaching from you? Once again, relationships. I wasn't asking for money. And they said, we would love to do that with you. And I was like, wow, like, holy cow. So then I had my anchor tenant and went and did that with 5 other multi-billion-dollar, very strategic. If you're in beverage or food, my LPs, who I'm not going to discuss who they are because in some cases, 2 of them are retailers, And if we don't want to advertise who they are because, their competitors may not want to carry the brands that they're investors in. So, but I think we were already the most strategic investor in beverage for sure, because everyone's giving us equity, like I said. But with our LPs, there's absolutely no debate that we are the most strategic investor in beverage, period. And Stack too, because usually we're at CEO, chief merchant level with all these retailers.
Yeah. How long did it take you from the idea to the first close?
So before that conversation that I just talked about, where someone said, we want to do this with you, it's gone incredibly fast. But before that, we kind of just been kicking it around and thinking about it for probably 2-3 years. But when that conversation happened and they said, we're in, it gave me the confidence that like, we're really into this. Let me just go socialize it with a few other folks. And they all said the same thing. And these are companies that have never invested in funds. And they're not doing it for the economics of it. It's not going to change their life if they, make 10, 20 million bucks. It's like, these are huge companies. And so they can afford to lose the money, which is important to me. It went really, really fast. I mean, we're not done yet, but
Yeah.
we did our first close on, it's a $30 million fund. We got, I think, 18 in the bank. And I think it's going to continue to go really fast because of who we have
Yeah.
around us.
Yeah. And of course, it's much before even the 2 or 3 years. It's the 25 years of operating that made it, I guess, quick at the end to close it. You just mentioned something really interesting though, that it's not really a financial play for these big multi-billion dollar enterprises. Why are they doing it?
So they want to learn. They're in our industry and they want to see what we do and the deal flow that we have. And a lot of these companies touch, the brands that we invest in, right? But they want to see how that process all comes together. And it's really fascinating. Like some of them, I think, want to do their own funds, their own venture funds internally. And this is their foot in the door to kind of learn and see how it works. But for the most part, what they've all told me is like, we're doing this for two reasons. A, we just want to learn about this. And B, like, we believe in you and we're going to partner with you. So it's a huge responsibility. I've learned like when you take $30 million from anyone, much less big multi-billion-dollar public companies, I'm not in the deployment of capital business. I never have been, right? I'm an operator, but, I brought in an adult, his name's Scott Guthrie, big private equity background because, the governance and the reporting and all that is super intense. And we are so far above reproach. Like we're managing this like it's a $1 billion fund, not a $30 million fund. Like our reporting is unbelievable. The governance is over the top. Just because I take the responsibility so seriously of what we're doing.
Yeah. And when I know you've probably had in your own mind what the strategy should be for a few years and what the focus is going to be in terms of company size, the mix of
Yeah.
food and beverage. Can you talk to that and if those partners have, I don't know if they're influencing that or if they're just trusting you to follow your own strategy, but it'd be interesting to
So,
hear you talk about
so
that.
we've made two investments so far, right? We invested in Just Ice Tea, which is Seth Goldman, founder of Honest Tea, and we invested in Better Sour, which is Bella, who we worked with in the past. She did Shaka Tea and sold it to King's Hawaiian Bread. She's a beast. She's an animal. So we bet on founders, right? Like, so, from the day that we've started every brand to the day we've sold it, it's unrecognizable, right? So you can't really invest in what you're looking at because it's going to change. The liquid's going to change. The packaging is going to change. The ingredients going to change. The management team's going to change. Everything changes when you go as early as we do. So the only through line through that whole thing is the founder. So for us, it's very important that that's what we're really investing in is the founder. It has to tick
Yeah.
other boxes like a category with headwinds and all those sorts of things. Our check size is 500 grand to 2 million. We like to invest in brands that have some sort of proof of concept. We'd love to see like a $10 million run rate. It's not a steadfast, true rule, but that gives us a lot more confidence that people are actually willing to buy it. And yeah, I mean, what other questions do you have? Those are the broad strokes.
Yeah, I was going to ask how early you're going, and it sounds like it's all about the founder. So I would imagine if it's like a repeat founder, you would probably even go. Do you go pre-revenue, or is that off the table?
So I don't think we would do pre-revenue. By the way, we have a little other kind of thing with Molson Coors that we could do stuff like that with. But for Paperboy Ventures, we pre-revenue is not something that we're gonna do. We even seed is too early. We like to come in at Series A and maybe even Series B. But if there's something opportunistic, like when we got involved with Athletic, it was very early, and by the time we had the opportunity to invest, and I had the opportunity to invest, it was approaching 50 million in revenue. So if there's opportunistic, like when we got involved with BodyArmor, it was almost 100 million in revenue. They just couldn't get into 7-Eleven, Walmart, or Costco. That's why they needed us, because Gatorade had Pepsi exclusive. Pepsi had Gatorade exclusive. So there's no hard fast rule. If there's an opportunistic investment at something that's further along, great. But I think pre-revenue, I can't imagine. We could, but I can't imagine a scenario where we would.
Yeah, no, it's something that I hear very often in the space. There's it's mostly angel groups and individuals that will go that
Friends and
early.
family.
Yeah, that's where you got to go if you're
Yeah.
pre-revenue.
Yeah.
But with your so it's like a Series A, Series B kind of target. Seed, you're saying, is a little bit too early for you. Is it because there's not enough proof at that point in your mind, or what's the I guess what's the
Yeah, so
thinking to
better so
focus on
better
A?
sour is basically an investment we did at Seed. But she definitely had, like, she was killing it in Sprouts. She had some Albertsons banners coming on, and we had enough confidence in her and just the early vital signs that we saw that we went ahead and went early-ish. Just Iced Tea is almost 40 million in revenue when we invested.
Yeah, and is the focus all food and beverage? Is it
Yeah.
outside of that as well? Like, do you do personal care?
No beauty, no pet. I guess we could do pet. I guess that's food, but we don't know anything about it. So this is primarily food and beverage.
Yeah,
Emphasis
and
on beverage, but definitely some opportunistic snack things.
gotcha. And what are you seeing out there in terms of the market as it stands today? I think we've seen a ton of acquisitions this year. It feels like things are picking up, but then again, you look at data that shows that all the money's moving later and later in CPG. So it seems like there is a gap, sort of where you sit in the seed and Series A landscape. But yeah, how has it progressed? What are you seeing out there?
So it's so funny, right? Like, I think about Super Coffee, right? Super Coffee. Those brothers are amazing. Like, they're incredible, incredible founders. And when they were going fast, the rules of the game were grow the top line, grow the top line. And I feel so bad for them because the rules changed. Like, of any brand I think of that, right? It changed from top line to you have to be able to make money or have a path to profitability. But let me tell you something, like, no beverage is profitable, till they're at least 50, 60 million in revenue. You shouldn't be profitable. So I laugh at a lot of these funds that say, we're looking for things around 10 million, in revenue that are profitable and, growing 100%. I'm like, why don't you just go find a unicorn? Like, it doesn't exist, right? So if you've done it, like, the faster you're growing, the more working capital you need. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So I think we fill that void a lot to get them to that later stage where, people can see that they have a path to profitability potentially.
Yeah,
Probably not even that, though, honestly. I mean, it takes a long time to get profitable.
it does, and it sounds like, I mean, I know you guys have the connections to roll out nationally at some of the biggest retailers, if not all of them, in the country, which helps you get there. But yeah, totally agree. These startup beverage companies are never profitable, and it's funny when you talk to
They
certain
shouldn't
investors
be.
that
They,
no, I
they,
mean,
they
you're leaving potential on the table. I know part of it is reality, though. Brand A lot of these companies have not been able to raise money, so they got to bootstrap it.
Yeah, so
But
you're asking me
it
what I'm
takes you
seeing
more.
is money has really dried up in the earlier stages for sure, but even in the late stages, it's there's a lot of money out there, but a lot of these big funds haven't written checks in a long, long time, and they're looking for that perfect scenario, and those are really hard to find, and you end up missing things. So that's why our thesis is to go a little earlier. Like no matter what Seth and Bella do, which is going to be amazing things, I know just by being in our ecosystem, we can take the value from where we invest to, up here. And that's really the thesis of our fund is, the founders we bet on are going to do amazing things. They already have done amazing things and they're going to, but we're going to put top spin on that big time.
Yeah. And I was going to ask if you were working with those two brands before you made the investment, and you weren't.
We weren't.
Because the
And
second
it's kind
question
of
is,
church and state. Like we don't have to
yeah,
work with the brands. But it's an interesting point you brought up. And one of the reasons why we didn't do this fund soon enough, like I was talking to Wayne Wu, who's my very good friend from VMG. And I was like, Wayne, everything I do is like a conflict, right?
conflicts. Yeah.
Yeah. And the light bulb went off for me when he said, he goes, Danny, the same reason why you're the best player, why an LP would invest in you is the same reason why you're a conflict. So just go out and tell them, like, these are my conflicts, either invest or don't, and that will like took the shackles off. Like literally, like all of our LPs are like, yeah, I guess you could look at those as liabilities, but we see those as assets. That's why we want to invest. So you just have to disclose that up front to do that.
Yeah. And to close off, I think it'd be great to hear your perspective. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there right now that are fighting and clawing to raise some capital. What would your advice be to a founder of a startup food or beverage brand who's trying to complete a Series A or seed?
So it's not a silver bullet, my advice to them, but I get asked this question a lot. And so I always say two things. The first thing I say is you can be small and you can be hard to do business with, but you can't be both. And we find that a lot of founders are very difficult. Like they're in their own heads. This is what they want to do. They're really stingy with equity, and they try to go in. They think this, every founder that you see tells you they're the next vitamin water, right? Like it's in their deck. Like, this is the total addressable market. If we get this much, you see that all the time. And they really believe it, which is the magic in some respects. But if they believe it too much, they don't understand what they're actually getting into, and they can be really difficult to work with. And then the other thing is it's like a personal Bible verse for me. Like we started, I just happen to have this here. This is Don't Quit protein soda, which we're launching right now. But, there's a poem that Jake Steinfeld, Body by Jake, who's my co-founder in Don't Quit, shared with me. It's called Don't Quit. And it basically, I won't recite the whole thing to you, although it's amazing. But the last paragraph is, stick to the fight when your heart is hit. It's when things seem worse that you must not quit. Don't quit. And that is my journey, right? That is everyone's journey that's doing this, because the reality is this is a blood sport. This is the hardest thing. And, a lot of brands come to us thinking we're a silver bullet. We are not a silver bullet, right? We're a shortcut and we're top spin. But ultimately, most of these things are not going to work. And, and for them to work, you can't quit. I mean, look at Celsius, right? 18 years of failing, not just kind of status quo, like literally failing. They got kicked out of every retailer 4 times. And then in year 18, they go to the moon, right? They didn't.
Today they're 10 billion plus.
They didn't quit. They had all the reasons to quit. They should have quit, right? I mean, I can't imagine what that cap table looks like to stay alive that long. But what I'm finding is a lot of these things, you don't get it right the first 10 times. It's constant evolution. It's tweaking. It's getting, retailer, distributor, and most importantly, consumer feedback and incorporating that into your brand. Like every day that every time we launch a brand, I always say, man, I think it's the greatest thing, or I wouldn't launch it. And I look back a year later going, like, what was I thinking? It's terrible, right? Like we're just launching this now. And I hate it, because what we're doing on our next run is so much better. But I'm sure I'll look back on that and say, man, we could have done better, and we'll change. And so you just can't quit. That's the bottom line.
Well said. And I think that that pairs nicely with the story you told about the pose from the beginning. So it all is starting to make sense. But we'll have to have you on again because the protein soda thing is also a really interesting conversation on its own. And I guess like the way to think about it is it could be the like Poppy and Olipop healthy soda with a different lens on it that could be big, but we don't know what
So
if consumers are going to
here's how I
drink
feel.
protein soda.
Here's how I feel about it. So I believe protein soda is modern soda 2.0. By the way, what do I know? I could be completely wrong, but I believe it's modern soda 2.0. Like this isn't going in the protein section. This is going next to Olipop and Poppy at Walmart and Albertsons and everywhere. We're shipping right now. But the reason, so prebiotics and probiotics, right? Nobody truly understands the efficacy, right?
No, nobody
And
knows the difference
and
between the two.
100% they don't understand the dosage. Like how many billions
No,
do I actually need? Protein, everybody understands the efficacy and everybody understands the dosage. Like I'm 190 pounds. I try to get 190 grams of protein in my diet every day. You know how hard that is? So if I could have a couple, 10 grams of protein sodas, that's 20 grams. It's meaningful and it tastes good. So I believe that it is literally modern soda 2.0. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to produce. Everyone's talking about it, everyone's trying to do it. They don't know they can't. There's patents out there. There's a lot of reasons. Like we've been working on this for a year and a half. Every brand wants to get into protein soda right now. We've got probably a year head start. We have a moat for production reasons, patent reasons, all these sorts of things. But it's coming. Everybody's going to be doing it.
amazing. Well, let's do it. Let's talk about it on another one. We got to wrap right now, but thank you so much for coming on. It's great to hear your story and also with what you're doing at Taste Tomorrow. Much needed resource in the ecosystem right now.
So,
I think
so
we're going to start seeing more money flow back though with all these
yeah.
exits.
So
So
before we go, I just want to thank you for all that you do for the industry, man. I mean, I think you've really found a spot that the industry really needed. And I think you're helping a lot of these founders and connecting those dots has been huge. So I want to thank you for that.
thank you. Yeah, I've been on that side of it and I know how difficult it is. It's the hardest thing in the world. So just trying to help out.